In this Sea of Thieves video, I'm going to show you guys how to talk. Truze, what is tucking? Tucking is essentially sneaking onto an enemy ship without them knowing, waiting them for get to an outpost, and sneak attacking them and stealing all their treasure. If this video helps you out, hit that like button and subscribe. It's free, you can always change your mind. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. First off, you want to sneak onto the ship without the enemy knowing you're actually there, or if they're on the ship, making sure they're not looking so you can successfully get away with a tuck. We're going to start with the sloop and move our way up to the galleon. Starting off, so once you're on the ship and the enemies are not looking, here are the most common spots for a sloop. So people will like to do this. They will turn the cannon one full direction and either go on either side. They will use the hide emote like this, and they will slide in just like this, and you will never know they're there. They will also do it on this side, but it's less likely because it shows more of their body. Now, if the enemy is really ballsy, they will try and climb into cannon. Now, this will make a lot of sound, so if you do this, you better hope the enemy is not anywhere close to you because you are most likely going to get heard. And it only shows your head and your full body is covered. To get out of it, you can just press your interact button. Moving from the first deck to the second deck, there's not much by the wheel. You can hand on the ladders, but if they're coming up on either side from an island or like just falling off the ship, they most likely see you. So most people like to go behind the anchor. The anchor, they line themselves up with the back of the anchor, press back so they're fully against it, and hide. Now this works better with dark clothing, as do all these spots. I'm making sure you guys can actually see where I'm at. So there you go. Finally, the hardest spot on the sloop to spot. You're going to jump up to the top. If you're doing this, it's going to take a lot of time because you got to wiggle your way into it. You're going to slide down. Once your character model slides down, you're going to hide. And now your full body is going to get covered by this giant tarp on the back of the sloop. Your name and body is pretty much hidden, and if someone is here, you're most likely never going to see them until it's too late. Now going to the lower deck, you have two spots here. The first one is right here. They'll press against the wall, hit hide, and they'll go exactly like this. Now you'd be thinking, Truze, this is so obvious, it's right by the stairs. But if someone is on your boat and you do not know they're on your boat, you will never think to check here. This is the first spot. Now the second spot they can go is back behind the map. They will just hide, and you can never see them because you'll never think to check behind your map. They most likely put their head towards the table instead of out so that it covers their name better, but you get the idea. Finally, the bottom deck of the sloop. Now there isn't much space to hide here because it's very obvious and you stick out a lot, but most people will go right here and hide. Now, people will put stuff here time to time, so it'll cover you up, so it becomes less obvious over time if there's putting stuff here. And lastly, they'll put their head in this barrel, or actually use the barrel emote, and hide their head in the barrel like so. Now, that is it for the sloop. Time for the brig. Now, here we have the brig. The brig is about as equally as hard to spot people on because there's no extra layers. It's just longer and has way more areas to hide along it instead of up and down. Now going onto the brig, you can do the same thing with the cannon by turning it. Same thing with the anchor, but it is less effective because there's no wall. But you can do the same thing as the anchor, but with a mast. Put yourself against it, and boom. Same thing as the anchor on the sloop, but with a mast. Now this is hard to spot because you don't come to the front that often, and when you do, you don't look down. Now going to the back of the brig, there's nothing to do really. You can hide on the rowboat if there's stuff in there, but it's very uncommon for people to be carrying rowboats if they're not doing quests. So up we go. Now, I didn't show you guys on the sloop because it's pretty easy to spot, but I'll show you guys on the brig. If you go to the top, Most likely people will put explosive barrels, so if you tuck up here when they're going to the outpost, you can drop them down. But most importantly, you can jump onto the sails. Now, you can do this with the sloop as well, I didn't show you. But the sloop is the same thing as the crow's nest. It's very close, but you can do this on the sloop as well. Now, a cool thing as well, you can jump down onto the lower post and actually fully tuck into the post, just like so. On the sloop, you cannot do this because it only has one sail. But on this, if you get up here, you can have a high vantage point of everything's going on the ship. Now you can get on this sail. I will try to do it one time for you guys if I can. You will see it. If not, you have to take my word for it. But you can make it onto this. I don't know how to specifically do it. I think you have to sword lunge onto it, but you get the idea. You would sword lunge from the top of the crow's nest or on the sail, and you can land on that sail. But I'm not going to do it 100 times just to show you guys, but you get the idea because it's the same from up there. Now going to the lower deck, the most common spot down here is probably behind the quest table. People will just sit back here. They can see you guys coming in and out on the bottom, and they can see when your quest disappeared, so they know when to attack. Now moving on. People will like to hide right here as well, because most people put their treasure right next to the staircase so they don't have to move it that far when they're at an outpost. The next spot they will do is right here. They'll back themselves up behind the cooker, lay down. And you would think people would check here, but it's not common for this spot because it used to be better before they added the cooking stuff. But people do not check here because most people don't cook food because they don't want to waste time. And finally, moving to the back. Now, just a reminder, they can barrel tuck here, but it's very obvious and distinctive because of the two different types of barrels. Now they can barrel tuck here, in the back, and right here. But most people will like to just do a normal tuck like this. Put their head in the barrel. Boom. They can see your map when you come check it, so they know when you're getting close to an outpost. Or they'll just physically back themselves to the table, hide. They'll be right next to the table, and then they can see all the way down. Now that is all the spots for the brig. Now that you've seen all the spots for the brig, it's time for the galleon. Now reminder, you can do these spots, and so can other players. So you have to be on your toes, and if you see like a ship is sitting, not moving for a while, it's most likely a good idea to check your ship and check for these spots because you never know when someone will be lurking on your ship. And finally, the galleon. The hardest to get on, but the easiest to hide, because there are so many spots to hide on this ship, because there's more levels and more areas to sneak into and put yourself in a place where you can steal their treasure. Now, I'm not going to show you these in any specific order of which one's better. It's all preference and what you're trying to do and seek out to do. So here we go. The cannon, same as the sloop. Anchor, same as the sloop, but the width of the anchor is way smaller. Same with the mast. You can do the tuck, but it is not as effective as other spots on the ship. Now, going right here. You can drop down and hide. Now this is easier to see from the outside because you're sticking out, but if you are in a spot and they're on the ship, it is very hard to spot. Now leaving from this spot, jumping up, we're going to move towards the captain's quarters. Before then, you can go on any of these platforms on the outside right here, as you can see. Any of these three, they're the same on the other side. You can drop down and hide, preferably going the opposite way so your head is in the boat, and boom. Any of these three planks on the outside of the galleon you can hide on. Same with the other side. Now heading into the captain's quarters. Most people will do this spot. Most people put their chest over here so it covers you up more. Leading from that, they will do behind the door. Most people put their treasure right here as well. They'll sack it. The most common, most OG spot is behind the chair. They'll press up against the chair, hide, and there you go. Their head is in a chair. Can't only get a perspective because the camera glitches out, but you get the idea. Going out here. Some people like to just hide on the balcony so you can see inside, but it's not good. Another spot is putting your back up to this corner and hiding. There you go. Someone's asking for an alliance. And with this spot, you can do the same thing. Push your back against it. Boom. You're good. And some people like to do here. It's not very good, but there you go. Now going to the upper deck. Wheel. Most troll of them all. Right in front of the captain. Seat over the whole boat. Of course, you have the mast. Now, the hardest spot and hardest to see spot is in the very back. You wiggle your way down. Like so. And boom. You can hide just like this. Now, this spot is probably the hardest to do out of all the tucks because it takes so long. You have to hit a precise point on the galleon for you to actually get the spot to work. Now, leaving the spot, you can simply jump down. Going to the lower deck. There's so many spots down here. The mast is pretty bad if you try to tuck there. You can do it. You can do this spot too. You can tuck into this. Now this one is probably the most useful on this deck. Put your head into it, lay down. You can see the whole bottom deck of the ship, and you can see when they're getting ammo as well. Now this one is also a good spot if you're a barrel, because you'll blend in and not many people check here. Now they'll barrel tuck here, hide here as well. They might barrel tuck here or tuck into this water pump, but not really well. Now, I'd be on the lookout for a barrel tuck here because it will probably blend in the most. And especially if you're new, you won't see it coming. Going to the lower deck. Many people will hide like this. And if you have water in your ship like I do right now, very hard to see. Now on the bottom deck, there is very large amount of barrels. So if anything, once in a while, I'd come down here and just swing. Because you never know. I don't think anyone will memorize where all the barrels are. But one last spot for hiding is just going into either side of this barrel at the end and just hiding. Now, that is probably it for all the tucks you can do on the Galleon. Now, again, you can hide on the sails. There's 3 rows this time, so you can drop down again, and hide on them. But you don't want me to show you that 3 times for each individual one. Now, you can get on the other sail right there. It's probably easier on the bottom one because it's at a lower elevation. You can jump to the top. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure you can still get on these ones as well, but you gotta get a pretty lucky sword lunge, and it's very loud. Now, if any of these spots are new to you, or you find it helpful on what to look out for, if you're new especially, leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, guys, peace.